Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr Chair, I move that the question be now put.
I will hear Jacinda Ardern.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to take a call. I believe this might be my first opportunity to speak on the Television New Zealand Amendment Bill. Just coming back to the commencement date for this bill, given that's the clause that we're currently debating. The commencement that we're looking at is post-royal assent. And what I would propose, so I'd be interested to hear views of other members of this House, is that rather the good people of New Zealand should get the opportunity to vote on this via the general election. Now, my rationale for that is that the government has said that, for instance, its policy on asset sales, they should go to the country and get a mandate for that particular policy. I'd like to see a mandate for this policy. And why? Because I think that ultimately, as there's such a significant change to our national broadcaster, and the mandate that they are given from the government means that actually I think people should be given the opportunity to really vote on this in the same way that they're given the opportunity to vote on asset sales, because there are some similarities. For instance, the assets that the government is proposing for sale, they deliver what I believe it's a 17% dividend, roughly, to the government. We also require a significant dividend of TVNZ, and have done at the same time as requesting that they fulfil their requirements under the Charter. Despite that, they are still selling Avalon. Again, another similarity to the asset sale argument. But as well as removing the Charter, basically this bill ensures that the primary focus of TVNZ, it was always a focus, but the primary focus will be its commercial priorities. In fact, the Charter will be essentially replaced by a statement of functions, which will include to provide for the functions of TVNZ, the Crown entity responsible for conducting a television and digital media business, and ensure that TVNZ carries out its functions and maintains its commercial performance. That is the purpose of the new legislation in a nutshell. That's it. So not much wriggle room there. Very clear that the purpose now is solely a commercial purpose. And that, for me, is an absolute tragedy. Not only have my colleagues already pointed out the role of TVNZ as a place shaper, but there are the additional flow-ons. In fact, the TVNZ in the past has had a role in providing, for instance, programming that otherwise might not be provided if we were looking at a purely commercial role. Children's programs, for instance. We've seen recently, in fact, that TVNZ has sold one of its most popular children's programs to Sky TV, which is obviously a service that Kiwis have to pay for if they wish to access. But there are flow-on effects that aren't just about place shaping, that aren't just about what will be lost via the removal of the Charter. And those flow-ons are economic flow-ons. The government may have entrenched commercial priorities, but I think it's actually neglected economic opportunities via TVNZ as a public broadcaster. Now, what do I mean? And what do I mean by that? Well, currently with the film industry, the government is fine backing a tax incentive regime that basically means that film companies will come to New Zealand to produce their films. Why? Because there is a natural flow-on effect when producing a film in New Zealand via employment of technical teams, of people working in CGI, of animation, not to mention the flow-on of crews finding accommodation in particular places where they're filming, caterers and so on. These are long, long lists. Key grips. I can see that my colleague, gaffers and good boys, I can see that my colleagues are well versed in the various career opportunities in the film and television industry. But of course, this is not unique to film. The flow-on effects of the screen industry are significant, and yet we don't seem willing to acknowledge that the government is willing to invest and incentivise in film, but it's not willing to invest and incentivise in television. For instance, TVNZ7 costs what, $17 million over the run of its life? The flow-on effect of that, according to some members working within TVNZ7, are in the hundreds of millions in terms of the flow-on through the screen and television industry. And also, it sustains the film industry.
Right.
It sustains the film industry. We are not in a continual state of foreign film production in this country. We do need an ongoing industry in order to keep all of the production people that my colleagues have named in full employment in between the filming of some rather large productions. And what industry does that? But television. Now, by narrowing the focus of TVNZ, Mr. Chair,
Joe Goodhue.
Mr. Chair,
I move that the question be now